Hey, yeah, it's getting a bit late. I'm only going to be on about an hour, just before I get food. But I figured I'd just do a bit of work. I've got, as usual, an absolute ton of game gears to try and build. So we no way we're getting through all these, but I'll build a few in a minute. And I just want to finish off this Saturn FRAM mod. I figured I'd just quickly do this at the start and then build some game gears, basically. So it's had the region 3 BIOS done already. That's all working. It's got the socket in. The FRAM's here, so I'm going to remove this chip and obviously put in the FRAM mod, which is fairly simple. I'm just debating whether we do a clean hot air off, or with this being close to this connector, do we do it a bit slower? Obviously, well, hot air either way, but let's try a bit of preheating on this maybe, to make sure we don't melt that plastic, I think. Hey, welcome in. Just doing a quick stream, only about an hour and a bit. Just get some of these game gears wrapped up. Reflowing, I will be doing some lead-free soldering in a minute. I'm trying to get all of the equipment and all of the stuff I use as safe as possible. So I have some new halide-free solder flux from Styri, because the halides and the halogens are the things that are bad for you, like the worst for you. I've got some lead-free solder, if I can pop it out, without stabbing myself on my tweezers. I've got this lead-free solder, so you can see the alloy is SAC, which is the abbreviation for the most common lead-free combination, which is tin, mostly tin, basically. Tin, copper and aluminium, I think the mix is, I'm not 100% sure. But that's like the best you can get for lead-free solder in terms of keeping it as close to leaded as possible. Obviously it's not going to be anything like leaded solder, so we're going to have, unfortunately, a harder time soldering with it. But again, I'm just thinking more in terms of safety. I mean, you don't really, the lead in the leaded solder isn't really a health issue for soldering, because you're not evaporating the lead. It's, you know, it's the flux that's the problem, not the lead. But I still thought I'd give it a go, basically. Hey ARG, thanks for that. And I'm glad I could help you. I presume I've helped you on probably the Discord or somewhere else. Am I Irish? No, Stoke. So Pottery's the accent is, from Stoke-on-Trent in the UK. So that's that off. Takes a lot longer on 330, but a bit safer for the board. And I've finally managed to get, for those of you that know, I've changed the hot air station. I've managed to get this thing attached to here. I've just had to drill out the other side with metal drill, because it will not fit otherwise. So that's now in a position. I'm still not massively a fan, because I have to have this thing all flopping around here, but it's better than being glued to me CRT, so that's at least in a usable position now. Yodi, how much do you earn? Yeah, it's one of 3 businesses I run, so. But yeah, I do like that. The problem is I've lost some weight, and now this is the only bait left that fits. And this is quite big now, so I don't know whether blow any more money on them or be sensible and spend that on equipment for the job. Let's get the extractor fan on. Let's try some of this new V5 Styri. Now I noticed, I've only used it once, like 10 minutes ago. I noticed straight away, this looks very much like the Mechanic stuff, which is pretty shit. So I'm guessing Mechanic copied off Styri. It wouldn't be the other way around. Like the Nano Flux, I think it's called. But with this being lead-free solder, this does not flow nice, unfortunately. So let's just mix it in. Let's just apply plenty, mix it in, and you see straight away how it looks dull when it dries. That's how you know there's no lead in. So that's kind of another. It's kind of sad using it because I like the shiny joints, and lead-free is going to be dull like this. So I may end up switching back to leaded solder as a compromise between all the other health and safety things. And my stupid extractor fan keeps dying as well. It's been on charge for like half an hour and it's just turned itself off again. But I've got a proper Weller. I paid the £1,000. You know, the thing I didn't want to do. I've paid the £1,000 for the extractor fan, so that'll be coming hopefully in a few days. Hey, welcome in, NanoFix. Using lead-free, no specific reason. I'm trying to just get all the stuff I'm using healthier. There's no real concern with leaded solder because we're repairing stuff before whatever time it is that you're meant to use leaded solder on repairs for. So we don't have to conform to lead-free solder because we're working on consoles that used leaded solder anyway. And the health of, you know, lead poisoning, you don't get lead poisoning from leaded solder. You do not melt leaded solder enough to, you know, have fumes of lead. It's not how it works. So really, the choice is just more the fact that technically lead-free solder is healthier than lead for whatever reason. It just is. You know, the fact that there's just no lead in there, but I don't like it. I'm going to try. You know, I'm just trying new things, but the melting point for the lead-free solder is a lot higher. It doesn't flow as nice. Same with this flux, this halide-free flux. Like everything that's good for you is worse at the job. So the flux isn't as good, the solder isn't as good, but we're still going to try and use it. Screw that off for now. So this is me, like, I haven't used lead-free solder in a long while, and I haven't used healthy flux in a long while, so we'll see how much I struggle with this today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 7 pins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7 pins down. I need to bend up. 2, 3, 4, 7. Right, so bend them 2 pins up. Any plans for a physical store in Stoke? Not anymore, I don't think. I had me fun with the stores. Had them for. In fact, I'm going to solder this down. Sod the hot air for now. Let's do a solder. I had the stores for a few years. I think in Stoke it's never going to be a viable option. Not for retro. It's not a big enough scene, unfortunately. Maybe it was in Manchester and stuff. That's a different, you know, kettle of fish. That might be beneficial, but I don't think in Stoke, unfortunately. Even though I did love the store. One second, let me catch up on. There's loads of chat. Let me. You got solder and oscilloscope. Any tips for console repair? Literally, if you, I know it's kind of upselling my own membership, if you will, but yeah, I do membership on YouTube and sub on Twitch, and then I do live only streams where I teach you how to literally solder and do things and use oscilloscopes and all that good stuff. That's where I mainly teach. So if you wanted to learn, then that's literally what I do on a Tuesday and a Wednesday on the sub only live streams. I wonder if we can drag solder with lead free. Let's go for it. Oh, this is painful. It's like you can just see it doesn't flow anywhere near as nice. Wow. Yeah, this is I mean, it's working, but it just looks like you haven't soldered. Look at them joints. They look like you haven't got solder on them, and it literally has. Let's put more flux on. Yep, that's just literally. They dry like you've not soldered them. that's depressing. This lead-free solder stuff is look at that. I mean, they're perfectly soldered, but wow, they just don't look as good. Let's zoom in. Yeah, so rock solid. And also, whoever recommended the dental pick, it's come already, and it's really good. So I can now push, but yeah, look, rock solid. These are soldered, but they just don't look it. To me, they look like joints where you haven't reflowed the pins correctly, and they're all rock solid. Obviously, this pin here is in the air. That's for a reason. So he just looks at it. Let me maybe bend him up a bit more. So you can see he's not meant to be on. Neither is he. He's literally designed to be soldered in a minute. So move them out of the way. But yeah, this dental pick thing, whoever recommended it, works ace. Yeah, so lead-free soldering. You're going to hear me moan probably non-stop about this lead-free soldering the whole time I'm using it, and I'll probably switch back halfway through the stream at this rate. But let's give it a bit more of a chance. Yeah, I don't think I can give up my precious lead either. I mean, there's, like I say, you do not get lead poisoning from leaded solder unless you're going to chew it. It doesn't like come up in the smoke, basically. So we can still drag solder, but it's more the visual, like the feedback on these is, like, look at that. See how the ball does not want to, I probably made it look a bit easy, but that ball did not want to flow with the iron then. So let's clean them up. Oh, just be careful of them floating pins, I don't drag them off. So yeah, it solders on, but I'm not exactly excited about that. That's quite not enjoyable. It just look, it doesn't even look good. Like you normally see nice shiny solder joints, but they just look dull as hell. Canadian EMT guys. Oh yeah, VGR. What's going on with him? No, I don't think there's anything going on with him. He liked one of my videos the other day. I know obviously VGR is yeah, there's that pin looking dodgy. We're on about this bottom pin here that looks a bit bent, but yeah, rock solid. Well, he said right pin 8, but I don't think that's right pin 8 either way. Let's nudge him down into position a bit. Yeah, none of the pins look good. Yeah, so the Canadian guy is definitely VGR because he's obviously an EMT. I don't think there's anything up with him. No, I think he still does his stuff. It's just his primary job is obviously not the repairs, even though he does really cool repair videos. Thoughts on the freestand desk extractors with carbon filters? I've got obviously this one. So this is the one I'm using at the minute with just this is just a carbon filter. Well, they say whether that's activated carbon or not, I don't know. I've got loads of different ones. This one does just a good enough job. It's just louder. So this one is that loud. This one's that loud. And I tested them both and they both do about 6 inches away. Exactly the same performance, just this one's so much louder. You can get the Walla. I was going to get the Walla little one that sits on your desk, but then I've just gone whole hog and gone for the one that's under the desk for the most suction, basically. That's the one I've gone for. These do a good job. It's just if you're doing a lot like we are in this room, the room gets filled with the smoke eventually as well. So I've got filters behind me. Like I've got 2 in now, so that's how you can see here. This is the things I've got in the room: Shark, Cleanse, Sense IQ, and you can see already the air quality is 88%. Got one right by me, and then if we swing the camera all the way around, we've got another one over by Zach, so we've got one over there, and that'll probably be a bit better. Yes, that's at 99 because it's not by me soldering. But yeah, we've got them filtering the room. Oh, wrong way. Spin it around. And then I've got this, but I've changed this now for, I've gone for a full top spec while zero smog. So just again, try and get this environment as healthy as possible. But these dash ones are great. Anything to get out of your face is 90% of the problem, really. Right, where was I? I need to attach a wire to 5 volt. Probably should find where 5 volt is. I could go on. Tell you what, let's just power this up and find out where 5 volt is. I have no idea off the top of my head. 5 volt is the second pin to this pin. Well, I've moved everything around as well. Got so many cables now. Is that this one? Yep, that's this. Sorry, it'll take me a while to get through these comments as well, guys. There's tons of comments in them. I am reading through them, but got to crack on with a bit of work in between doing this. Right, so 5 volts, we can go to that cap. Turn that off. Oh, NanoFix has become a member. Thank you very much. So you can. We're doing a sub-only stream tomorrow at 4:30 as well. You need to get a smaller iron and tip. No, I defo don't. I've got these, especially with lead free. So I've got the tiny tip here. Got the giant tip. They'll do exactly the same because we can drag solder. Rarely a need for this ever. This is like, you'll see me solder everything. There's nothing I can't solder with this tip. Basically, I've got both. I've got pretty much every piece of equipment you can imagine I'd need. I've got, but no, the bigger tips definitely work better for soldering because you get more heat transfer. You don't really ever need a small tip. Like, there's very few circumstances where that's needed. So that's the pin on there, and this can go to this down here. So get that, get a scalpel, put that there. Strip this. 8th pin from bottom doesn't look like it's on the pad. I saw that noted like before. I'll check it again in a second. I think they're all solid. You just, like I say, the downside with this lead-free solder is none of them look soldered, even though they are. You just got such a bad appearance when they're soldered in compared to leaded. Yep, so that's on there, that's up in the air. Right, so let's have a quick look at this thing. 8th pin down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that one's solid. This one, solid. That one, solid. It's just, that one is probably the one you're on about, just needs nudging again. The alignment. So like this, we can just warm up the pad, nudge him into position a bit, just so he, visually looks a bit nicer. But yeah, they're all solid. They don't look good because of this lead-free solder that I'm going to continue to whinge about. Right, and then the other one I need to do is this one to ground, and that will be ground. 99.9% that's ground. I'm not even going to measure it. We'll find out if it's wrong when we boot it up, if it loads or not. I still swear by a nice fully kitted pace station. Yeah, I've heard of pace, I've never used them. I still blow every time I put solder on the tips, and that used to just blow influx out my face. I keep forgetting I've got the extractor on. That can go down to there. Yep. Yeah, I do not like this solder. Right, so that's on. Sponge, I think I saw somebody ask what the sponge is. It's a melamine sponge, also known as a magic eraser. Cleans up the boards good. And this flux as well, this V5 has still got the UV thing where you can shine UV light on and see how shit of a job I've done at cleaning the board up. So, by no means clean yet, but like most things, I chuck them in ultrasonic baths or more than likely dishwasher. So this will get a clean after I'm done anyway. But the surface flux is off, but you can quite easily see it's definitely not off, if you know what I mean. There's like, look at that, like spread it everywhere. So you'd never see that without the UV, but that kind of shows where you've still got flux on the board. Yeah, cancer risks are ridiculously low these days. The main thing is occupational asthma is the main thing you'll get. Halides in the flux are your biggest concern, so go with halide-free flux to start with. Definitely have extractors. I've used extractors on and off for years. Obviously, you should really extract, but it's not like, you know, if you vape, smoke, drink, or sunbathe, you've probably got more chances of getting cancer than you have from soldering, as long as you, especially using an extractor fan. So. Yeah, the V5, the thing is, I've only used the V5 with the lead-free solder, so it's not really getting a fair test. It might work great on the others. How am I? Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Just got tons of comments to catch up on, so like I said, if I miss your comments, either spam it again or I'll get there at some point. Carbon extractor, I think unless you're going with the whole HEPA filter with 3 stages, something physical to catch the, you know, like you can see there, that little white, that's what it's caught out of the air. I think this will catch most stuff anyway, but I'd either go from this to something fully trusted, nothing really in between. I wouldn't go with for example, a HEPA filter from AliExpress. I'd go with, if you're going to go with like HEPA filter stuff, stick with a brand name that you trust, like Walla or something like that, basically. Hacko, Walla, JBC, Pace, all those, you know, companies will have trusted fume extraction. Otherwise, just stick with your small fans, basically. Different shades of solder mask on the board. They're not different shades, it's just different layers. So what you're seeing here is where the dark green underneath, there's nothing there. That's fiberglass between there. So the inner layer of the board, you're seeing that. So there's a green coating over the top that's all even. But this bit has no copper, and this bit has copper. So if you scratched away a little bit of this, which I don't really want to do because this is, I think this is it's a prestige build, but scratch away a bit of that and you'll expose copper. That'll just look like copper colour, obviously. These traces are all copper, so where it's light, you're seeing copper. Where it's dark, you're seeing that the copper's gone, and that's just the pre-preg, it's called, of the board, the main thickness of the board that's got nothing in it. Again, if you want to learn all that stuff, that's what the kind of subbed on Twitch and members on YouTube before, so when I do the sub-only streams, I kind of teach you all these things, anything you want to know. Right, I'm just going to power this up to test it still works, now the FRAM's on. I'll do the rest of the build off stream for this one. It's nothing to do with what I wanted to look at today. I just want to practice a bit of soldering. So let's get the AV cable, the CRT, and you don't need anything for the Saturn to boot. You can just boot a Saturn up with 5 volts and nothing else, and you'll get something on screen. You don't need anything else plugged in. So we're on that. Let's look at this at the same time together. So there's that. Let's plug in the clean power. And I presume, hopefully, it'll still boot. We'll just get to the English menu if it works. And if it doesn't, then yeah, that's fine. So we've had a few people mention, obviously that's not really testing the FRAM, but it shows it's still booting and there's no issues. We've had a few people mention like the FRAM not working. I don't know whether they're just destroying them with heat or bad luck. But we've sold them for years. We haven't changed factory, and we've done tons and never really had any issues with them. So I think if you're having issues with them, it's probably just more bad luck than anything else. So that's that one done. Let me just move him out the way now, and we'll jump onto some Game Gear soldering. So this will be the test really for this flux and solder. Is can I use it without getting my air off? Otherwise, I'm going back to the leaded stuff. That's there. Tidy up a minute. Oh yeah, these wires are getting in a mess. I think I'll keep the other colour off because I use blue at the minute. I've put like a blue and a green wire on the same spool, but then every time I'm spinning the blue to get it off, the green's going everywhere. There we go. Could do with a bit better way of dispensing this wire really, but it's not too bad. Right, that's that cleaned up. Now let's get these 1 ASICs. So these have come in about a week or two ago. I've got a couple already taken off, so we can just practice the soldering. Don't even need to remove them yet. Can you damage ICs with heat? Until about a week ago I would have said no. I've always had this philosophy where I've used my hot air station on 480 degrees Celsius at 80% airspeed for like 15 years on and off as I've done it, and I've never killed a chip with heat. Until I've been doing these Game Gears, and then I've realised I've probably killed about 30 Game Gears by overheating them. I did a stream, keep that out of the way, I did a stream where I used I knew that was going to fall off. I don't think this being on top of here is the best place for it. I did a stream where I used low heat and a low heat and a pre-heat board, and then a hot air station on really low temperatures to like kind of reflow the VDP on the second chip on the Game Gear. Showed that it all worked. Then I got my hot air at 480 degrees, warmed up the chip, took it off, put it back down, and it was dead in exactly the same way that it kept dying for me. So I have found that there is chips that will die with too much heat. Until then, I would have said just purely experience. All the hundreds and thousands of chips I've removed at that temperature never have a problem. The only one I've ever had a problem with is the VDP on a Game Gear. And funnily enough, the transistor on a Lynx, the power transistor on a Lynx, seems sensitive to heat. So generally the answer is no. You won't really kill stuff with too high a heat. But in terms of what I've now learned, you definitely can. Just it's not very common at all. I've lowered my hot air temps down to 330 now, basically, and I try to keep them at that. Obviously now we know we can kill chips with heat, even though it's not many of them. I'm trying to then learn to do the soldering at a lower, like the hot air at a lower temperature, basically. Yeah, if you want to learn solder, just join the YouTube as a member, or join Twitch as a sub, and then I do like sub-only lives where I teach all this stuff. How do you take the flux completely off? Chuck it in a dishwasher or an ultrasonic cleaner. Streaming, I stream on, as you can see up on the little thing up there, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok, basically. So now, you'll notice on this I'm not pre-tinning the pads and hot airing down anymore. I'm going to attempt to solder these down, just because the last few I've hot aired these on, they don't tend to want to solder well to the board. So I'm just going to attempt instead to solder these down the old-fashioned way, which is to align them up like we've aligned this corner well enough. I'm going to put flux on this corner. I'm just going to blob some solder on, and I'm not aiming at not bridging pins and stuff, even though these top two actually do bridge. I just want to get this chip tacked down in the position I want it. So I'm going to use my hands to align it roughly there, blob on. Oh, come on, leaded solder, lead-free solder, at least stick to the board. Wow, yeah, that's awful. But that's tacked in position in that corner. I'll go down to this corner, and you can see we're quite far off there. So, to be honest, I'll probably move it over a bit first, because you can see we're quite a bit away. Maybe down a bit. And you only want to tack the, one corner to start with, so you can actually freely move it. And we come to this bottom corner now. we should be able to nudge it into position there. And if you see, if that looks like it's then going to align on all the other pins when you do that, which it looks like it will, I'll go to the opposite corner and tack this down, and then we can reflow solder all the other pins. So with that one, we'll nudge that into position there, tack down with this god-awful lead-free solder that does not want to tack to anything. There we go. And now that's all aligned. Yep, and you want to make sure it definitely is. And now we can attempt to solder this thing down. Avoid, obviously, starting here, because you'll move the chip. So we will spin this around, and we'll probably start drag soldering down here, basically. That's going to be the goal. So let's apply some flux all the way down. And then I might do another one after this with the leaded solder to see how much easier it is. Any PCB cleaner for flux? At the minute, to be honest, I use IPA and hot air to kind of move stuff off, and then once I'm done, chuck things in the dishwasher. I've not found an ultrasonic cleaner that works for me, but if you get an ultrasonic cleaner, I'd just chuck it in after that. If you can find one that works, I just haven't yet. The wire won't short on the board because it's insulated. So the wire you saw me use, this like blue wire earlier, this is enamel, or this might not even be enamel, the blue stuff, but basically this is insulating. And then when you burn the end off with a soldering iron, with solder on, if this has got any on, might have just enough to burn the tip. Nope, not quite. Flood that with that. Burn there. You can see when you burnt the tip off, there's the copper now tinned with the solder. So this bit's now conductive, but this bit isn't, the blue isn't. So it's basically insulated by, you know, when you see the colour, it's insulated. Thanks for the clip about the rubber pads. Yeah, no worries. People instantly went on TikTok to say, please do them videos again, like the pre-recorded stuff. So looks like I'm going to have to start doing them again now as well. Right, let's give this a go at drag soldering. So pretend it's lead. Oh my god. I was going to say pretend it's leaded. This would have worked already with leaded. Oh jeez, this is like, what? This is like I don't know how to solder. Oh wow, this lead free is terrible. Okay, tons of flux. Way more time on the pads. Oh, this is not pleasant. Way more time on the pads. Way more flux. Come on, tin the pads. This is terrible. It doesn't even want to stick to the... Oh wow, this is awful. That literally looks like I can't solder. I know what to do. Why aren't you soldering? Wow. I bet this is how everybody else feels that struggles to solder. This is awful. Right, let's ignore that V5 flux. Let's go back to my other flux. Let's see if it's the flux or, more than likely, this stupid lead-free solder. Let's get my known working flux in here. Oh, it's the flux, maybe. No, I think it's both. The flux helps. This flux definitely. Yeah, this flux is better, but smokes a lot more. But yeah, this lead-free solder is absolutely awful. Just doesn't want to flow. Nah, this is not going to stay. I am not using... I'm not using lead-free solder. This is awful. Look how long this is taking. This should be like literally a 10-second job. Not even that. It's like it just doesn't want to stick to the board. That is so bad. You have to use so much flux and so much time, and then it still looks shit when you're done. No, I am not working like this. I will prefer lead poisoning. Yeah, that is horrible. Absolutely horrible. No fun. Right, let's clean that up and let's try that again with my leaded solder. No, I don't think it is the flux. I know this flux. I've used the flux. I've tried both fluxes. It looks like it is. That looks like it's a heat or a skill or a flux problem, but I can guarantee it's not because I already know how to do this, basically. So let's do it with the leaded solder and see the difference. That's terrible. Let's zoom in. It even looks bad. That looks awful. Yeah, so let's check the soldered. But that was painful. So soldered. See, that's not even soldered. That's not soldered. That's not soldered. They're not even soldering. These are terrible. Okay, let's just go down the same row with leaded solder. Sorry, so let's just redo that entire row with the flux. Same flux again that we just used. Obviously, this is the other one, but we've just used it at the end. That made no difference. Get my leaded solder. And let's do that again and watch how easy it is. He says. You watch, this is where ironically it won't go right, but bring out the leaded solder. Get this on the iron. And I know we've got obviously lead free on here, but it should mix in quite well and just flow down. Hey, look at that, nice and easy. So you see this ball, how it follows the tip of the iron. That's what you're looking for. And now this ball's probably full of the lead-free stuff as well, but look how much easier that is. That's how long it should have taken. And get to the end and wick off what's left. And I think these, no, it isn't these two pads, it's the two pads below it that are to be joined. Come on, last two pins. Don't give me a trouble now. This is because I said it was nice and easy. Come on, there you go. Right, so very little care given there, just a whiz down. Let's see if that managed to solder them pins on or not. Now, you saw I haven't really taken much time there. I've purposely whizzed down just to see. But let's have a look at this. Nope. Soldered. Nope. Nope. These pins are too much in the air then at the minute. Yeah, these are all terrible. These are floating way too high. So that's why we're not getting any adhesion down on these. Okay, so let's do, I guess we'll resort on these one chips then to pin soldering, which I wanted to drag solder because that's the fastest way, but it looks like these one chips are definitely going to be the pain in the ass. So let's go back to the lead-free solder then. Let's give it a fair chance. Let's ignore that side a minute and start fresh, and let's do where are we? Here we go. Let's do pin by pin soldering, which I don't typically do, it's the slowest, but let's just do that way. And I think this might be just the way that the 1A6 will be needed to solder. With the main issue with them, why they don't hot air on, is they sit high. See, unless you push down with your finger, the chips naturally sit high on the board, so it doesn't want to go from the PCB pads up to the pins, basically. That's the main issue we have here. Which is why I said we need to solder these, not hot air them. So let's just go back to the V5 flux, back to the lead-free solder, and let's just do this pin by pin. So I've got the fine tip on here. Let's do a pin by pin solder on this instead. Okay, not as painful as the drag soldering, unless you touch two pins together, and then you'll have to kind of drag solder to get rid of that join. Come on, man. Tiny tip is probably not going to have enough heat transfer to drag it off. Oh, it does just about. Come on, little baby blob. Down you go. Oh, hang on, these 3 pins are soldered, aren't they? So that pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know 3 of these pins right around here are actually joined together, so that's probably why we won't get that off, because there's traces underneath. I'm just not sure which 3 it is. I think it's them 3. See the trace running through? I think they're the 3 where the line is actually meant to be on. Probably would have been easier to clear off this blob instead of trying to slowly drag him down the board. Come on, little blob. Wow. I look like I can't solder doing it this way. There we go. So those 3 there, I'm pretty sure, if I looked at my own schematic, those 3, yeah, see the join there? That's the 3 pins joined. So they do join. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 are actually joined. There's copper under the circuit board. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so these 3 here, how they look bridged, they are actually bridged. That is copper on the PCB, basically. And then we'll do the pin soldering. Well, to be honest, the pin soldering with the this lead-free isn't any... Well, it's not much more painful than leaded, because so long as you don't bridge 2 pins like that, which I keep doing, this then becomes painful. That you see how you're trying to drag the ball down, because obviously it doesn't want to melt. You can't even really drag that little ball down. So this bit becomes painful here, doing this, slowly dragging the ball down. What you should probably do is just wick that off. So what I think you should do in this instance, and this is like, feels like going back 10 years in soldering. These are all the things I don't normally have to do, because I just hot air stuff, and you don't need to bother with all these problems that you typically get from pin soldering. This is why I never pin solder. You'd wick it off like that, so you're not trying to drag that ball down. And then you'd carry on pin by pin. So yeah, this one isn't too bad doing this, you know, pin by pin with the lead-free. But bear in mind, I also have no scope at the minute. I'm doing this with a delayed stream with no depth perception whatsoever, and about a half a second delay between what's actually happening versus what my hands are doing. So I should probably do this under a microscope. But yeah, not too bad this way. Definitely less painful than the drag soldering. Drag soldering does not work on these 1 ASICs. And I don't think it's really either. We're starting on the worst of the worst, really. I should have started on like a 2 ASIC, and these pins, by the way, were also bridged. They're ground. I should really start on like, you know, a 2 ASIC Game Gear, and use the flux I'm used to using, and slowly introduce changes. You know, I should have just changed the solder on its own first, maybe. Then the flux, then maybe the board, but instead we've gone straight into lead-free soldering on the worst Game Gear with a flux I don't know and a fine tip iron. It's like all of the worst situations in one, really. But we're managing, but this is painfully slow. Like, you've seen me do Game Gear 2 ASICs and they take like 7 minutes start to finish. This is painful. I might even reconsider trying to hot air these down, because I wouldn't want to be doing these this way. This is like crazy slow for trying to do, you know, imagine doing this for obviously the reason we do it, which is to sell them and make money. This is crazy. Wrong flux for lead free. Ah, okay. So there's well, I say that, I'm sure I can look it up, but we've got 2 different fluxes. Geez, that's zoomed in. The Stereo V5, I'm sure, is okay for lead-free. But yeah, if there's a flux dedicated to lead-free, I would have thought this V5 was. It's obviously their latest version with all the benefits. I think it's mainly just this is lead-free is painful compared to leaded for obvious reasons. Yeah, V5's awful. I must agree, at the minute, I'm not liking the V5. I can't see through it either to see what I'm doing. I'm not exactly a fan of this. Let's go down here again. Let's drag this ball off now. This was the one we used to pre-tin this pad. And again, painful. Yeah, we're not going to drag that off either. I hate lead-free solder. If people are watching me for the first time here, they're definitely going to think I don't know how to solder. This is crazy bad. Even the wicking doesn't want to work. Yeah, there we go. I'll tell you what, let me also crack this iron up. What does my iron go to? I'm probably going to kill my tip doing this. Right, 440 on the tip of my iron. Get some extra heat in. Don't know if that's any better at all. Not massively. Yeah, this is too slow for, like, even if we solder, this is way too slow for any useful work. This is not the way we can do it. So I'll tell you what, let's stop midway there and get the leaded back out. Keep the flux, keep the V5. Let's see the difference that using leaded makes on this job. Yeah, look at that. I'm even going to attempt drag solder, sorry. Drag solder with a tiny tip. No, okay, ambitious. Maybe, okay, sod the baby tip off. Let's go fat tip. And let's try, I know the drag soldering didn't work before, but maybe go on. I think the pin by pin soldering, even if it works that way, is not going to work for me. So let's go back to drag soldering. What I'm going to do is apply a little bit of downward force as I'm going to push the pins down to the board instead. How's that for a technique? Yeah, so better. Go back with the ball, blow all the way up, and then get this off with the little gull tip. Or don't. Yeah. Not a fan of that lead free at all. I don't think I can use it. It's going to be, I don't know, it's too annoying to use, and I don't see enough benefits to use it. Like, why use it? Plus these one ASICs are bad enough as they are for soldering. So I don't think I want to use it. Yeah, just doesn't look good. I also don't think I like this V5 flux. So we're going to have to... is this tip working? Why is that not coming off? Ah, that pin's also moved. See, that's the problem with drag soldering these fine tips as well. They nudge. So we're going to have to warm that up and nudge him out of the way. There we go. Yeah, I don't like that at all. Don't like that technique. Doable, but not a good technique. So let's change something up. I think unless you all disagree for some strange reason, I'm going to ditch already this lead-free solder. Do not like, it's too much of a hindrance in the job, and like I say, what's the point when you're not getting lead in your system from using this? The flux is what evaporates in your face, not lead. So let's change that back first. Let's make that the first change. I probably should have done it this way around in the first place, like I say, doing small changes in one, but either way I'm pretty confident I don't want to use that lead free. That is just terrible. So there's one side left to solder, and then we've got to fix the other side as well at the top, which we never finished off because we just left in a mess basically. Yeah, and there's quite a few people mentioning the V5 seems to be shit as well, so no. So not learning to solder lead free. Well, we just did. We learned that don't bother. Unless you have to, do not use lead free solder. Obviously, if we were repairing like PS5s, you're technically meant to use lead free on anything above a certain year. But yeah, not using it. So the lead free is out. yeah, just tack a corner and drag down. That's literally the drag soldering doesn't work on these, specifically these 1A6. The pins float up in the air basically. You take them off, and I don't know whether I can get it visual. I'm not going to do this. I haven't even checked if I can see the fact that they do, but let's do that and go on this camera and let's see if you can actually see the fact that I know they float in the air because I've tried hot airing them and they don't solder. So yeah, look at that, you can see the legs floating in the air. So see the edge of the board. I mean, it's hard to see, I can see it, but there's a clear gap. Have I got something nice and thin to get in there and show you? Scalpel. So this is why the hot air technique doesn't work. So see if I can get a scalpel through there. Nearly. So I presume you can see that gap there. And this is me holding it flat to the board. Let me zoom right in. Look at that. This is why it doesn't work. This is the 1 ASIC pushed firm. Look at my hands pushing as hard as I can. And look at them legs. They're miles up in the air. All of them. This is why hot airing the chip down doesn't work, because hot airing it takes seconds and I want to hot air it down. So that's the problem, by the way. If you know, I probably should have explained that. The reason I'm even attempting to solder this with an iron is because I know they don't hot air down. You can try and push the middle of the chip down as you hot air and they're still in the air. So we've got a few options. We can try and bend these legs down all in one line, which I think I'll probably end up doing. Or you'd have to find a technique to solder that works. You've seen the drag soldering doesn't really work, the other technique. Plus if you're dragging on these pins, they're very delicate pins, you're probably going to bend them. And then obviously I've just been deciding to try to use lead-free and V5 flux, which I think both, to be honest, seem shit. So I think we just made that job like look ridiculously hard when it's not really a hard job. I think we just need to find a better technique, and this is not the technique. So we're back to, I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to do this last one exactly as I would if I hadn't just changed everything. Back to my Styri HTTF and my leaded solder, and I'm just going to pretend nothing's changed and I can still solder and I haven't lost all ability, and I'm just going to drag solder this like I would any other chip. And look at that. So this is how I would drag solder normally, and for the most part that's working basically. It's like, you know, a little bit more, I'd say wanting more heat than it normally would. This will need a bit more flux now to clear off the last few pins, but ultimately that has drag soldered fairly well. Like, that's not far off what a typical drag solder would do. I'd say it just maybe needed a bit more heat. I think those top two pins are soldered as well, like they are joined basically. So that didn't go too bad. That's kind of how you drag solder normally. The problem is I just brought 100 pounds of this V5 stuff, and I'm pretty sure the V5 stuff's quite shit. So there's that soldered on. Again, left pins are meant to be joined. That's literally how they are. Oh yeah, medical devices. I read up on that as well at some point somewhere, that yeah, medical devices you have to use, obviously lead-free for obvious reasons, but yeah, if I had to for the job, I'd learn how to use that lead-free, but to be honest, it really is that bad. That's like with all the known techniques and skill I've developed, that, well, you've just seen, I've drag soldered this the way I'd normally drag solder. Every pin is rock solid. No issues at all on that. And, oh, I say that, one there near the end just had a little nudge. Seems like it's down, but that did nudge, so I'm guessing that one wasn't quite solid. And just bear in mind, I also, like I keep saying, I've got no depth perception on this. I can't judge where I'm at with the iron, and height-wise, I should really use the scope. And then those last two pins are meant to be joined together. So let's just check that one is on. Yep, so they're all on there, but I still don't like the fact that these legs sit high up. So even though we can do that, I don't like the fact that you've seen like this side is still terrible. These legs are all in the air. So let's just refloat this with lead-free solder and make sure, because this was the worst side, so get plenty of lead-free. Drag down. Try and get all of that leaded stuff mixed in. So that's why I'm using excessive amounts of solder here. I just want to mingle the leaded stuff in with the lead-free. And then we're going to try a different technique altogether, I think, on this. I'm going to attempt to do the hot air that I'd normally do. But I think we're going to have to bend these pins down for sure first. So plenty of solder on these. That's as flooded as it can get with solder. Now let's clear off the bridge and let's test if that's soldered down. And like I say, look how long that's taken. This job should take 5, maybe 10 minutes at most. It should not take that long. You can see we even got a pin here that I need to nudge with this little pick out of the way. Yeah, this is an awful way of doing it. We need to find a better way, because this is just so inconsistent, not being able to solder pins. I bet these are still floating as well, some of them. I don't trust how high the pins sit, and that's like a little bridge there. I think that's actually a blob of solder stuck between the pins, but let's just flow that. Yeah, this is all like just ridiculous. The amount of time this takes for such a simple job is obviously not viable. Even if we figured this out and got better at this, the fact that this takes so long for such a simple task is the sign this isn't the right method, basically. And it's all just due to them pins being floating in the air. That's the only reason this is not working. Like, you should just be able to drag solder this in seconds. It shouldn't be a problem. So I think it's better spending the time trying to coerce these pins into a position so you can hot air it down than it is messing like this. Yeah, look, even that one's loose, that one's loose. This is crazy. Back to pin soldering. So where was the loose one? Was he this one? Push you down, push you down. So we'll fix these one at a time by just pushing them down for now. And then what I'm going to do is probably, like I say, bend these legs before we solder, and I'll go straight back to hot airing, I think. Right, there we go again. And you shouldn't even have to dental pick check these, because, like I say, you've seen me do tons of these. This is not something you normally even have to check. It's just clearly the fact these are... Yeah, look, even that one again. This is crazy. Should give up now. This is nuts. I might as well keep the iron in my hand, and every time one moves, I don't even trust him. Let's get him pushed down. I'm getting quite good at soldering with a delay and no depth perception now, I must say. Right. Yeah, wow. Even the ones I'm pushing down aren't soldering great. There we go. And there we go. That's the last time I want to pin solder that thing. That was terrible. Let's clean them up and let's do a completely different technique this time. Oh, you should probably check if he works as well. Make a jig to pen the pins down. Yeah, I don't think we even need a jig. We'll figure this out with just being careful. We should be able to bend it on a flat surface. That's the next idea, I think, is what we're going to do. Thanks for the sub. Just noticed a fresh sub. Flux I'm using, well, the flux I've been using that I know is good is this HTTF. We tried lead free solder and this stuff, and I think both of them are shit. I might give this another go after I've, you know, reflowed this and worked a bit better, but the lead free solder is definitely out the window. I'm not bothering with that again. Is that a fish? Where? I don't see a fish anywhere. I don't think there's any advantage of lead free solder. There's literally none. It come about just for safety, but yeah, you can use it for rework on devices as old as these, so we don't have to use it. I just thought I'd try it again, but yeah, I've tried it for like 10 minutes and we're never using it again. So I'm back to the leaded solder. It just doesn't look as good, doesn't work as good. I can use a clamp on the chip, but it doesn't matter. You've seen me kind of push. Well, you might not have seen. Depends when you joined in. Put the chip on the board like that. Push down as hard as you want on the chip, and you'll still be left with. And these, I've tried it multiple times, so it's not like it's the first one I've done either. You can see that's me pushing as hard as I can. Keep that pressure on, and look at that gap on the board. Let's see if I can get that in focus as much as I did before. So that one doesn't look as bad that side, but you go another side. That side, there you go. So look at that side. That side's like lifted up the most. So it's, and these have been taken off the board. Yeah, look at that. Pins are floating miles in the air. And that's, look at my hand, pushing down as hard as I can. So those pins are never going to solder well. We need to preform them down on the board, and they're worse than the others. So that's the issue we deal with there. Otherwise, the technique for this is literally just hot airing it down in seconds. But yeah, drag soldering. Thing is, the drag solder doesn't really work because of the same thing that the pins are floating in the air. That's the biggest problem with this either way. So if we fix the pin float, we'll fix the ability that we can just go back to hot airing it on anyway, which is by far the best technique. So it was worth a try, but I need to build dozens of these every week pretty much, so there's no way I'm going to use that technique. What I'd do at most is drag solder for quickness, but the drag soldering doesn't work either, so we need to find a better solution. So like we say, let's see if this works first, and then we'll find, we will figure it out. We'll use hot air and bend them in and get this working. No, high heat not causing the chip to bend. No, we've taken loads off and we're using 330 degree air. We've done like, I don't know, we've done about 6 already today. So, and they all come off exactly the same. They all come off with bent pins. And other people have had the same issue. They struggle to hot air the one ASICs on, obviously for that reason, I think. YOLED PS3, yeah, just bin it. Not worth working on. Yeah, when you see other people, you'll see me doing it as well if you go back on other streams. The way I do all the ASICs is literally hot air round, push down. That's literally, I do live streams on them every day. It's a main issue with, specifically this one ASIC. It's a unique issue to that one. So I'll show you that technique now anyway, because that's the one we're going to attempt to fix up and do. So obviously we'll get the right technique. And this just shows again that you can have a technique that works for every other board, and then you can come to a specific board and have issues with it. It's just identifying why the technique doesn't work, basically. So let's start with pre-tinning these pads. So I'll go around with the flux that we normally use, and we'll zoom in on this, and you'll see how easy this is now. We'll make this look ridiculously easy now. We'll go back to the fat tip. Shouldn't ever need the tiny tip. The benefit with this fat tip as well, you should see me be able to tin all these pads in one go without using extra flux. So this has got a little gull in there, so see, I've got no depth perception. I'm doing this and it's miles above, so I have to look down. Fill the gull with solder, and now without ever having to refill it, I can go around here, and we should be able to do the entire board with one drag. Obviously we need more flux because it's all been eaten up already, but you won't ever need to reapply the solder. Hopefully that gull should have enough solder to pre-tin every pad on here. And there we go. So not a single pad, not a single refill of the solder. And then clean off majority of that flux, and we've got the pre-tin pads. So I'll probably turn this iron back down as well. I've got it set right up to the 440 for testing that lead-free crap. I'm going to maybe put a bit more solder on that little blob there. There we go. I think everything else has got enough. Yep, so that should be good enough. And now all we do to hot air down is flux around again and hot air over. And I'm going to do it the conventional way, the way I've always done it. But before we do that, we need to bend these down. So basically I want to find a nice flat surface, which is here. I'm just going to place it down here and then gently, trying to keep it perfectly flat, I'm just going to bend up a little bit. And to be honest, you can bend down more than you need, because as long as they come down past the chip, when you're pushing down, they're going to still work. So yeah, that looks like it's bent past. Do this side. And you can't really feel the pins bending because they're so light, but you can see them. See how they're now bending down there versus this one we haven't done yet. There we go, they're all bent past. And then this side. There we go, so I think that looks like now all of them pins are below. Maybe a little bit more on this one. Below the chip. There we go, let's check they're all flat still. And in line, and they'd look it. So that now, we should be able to hot air this down the conventional way, basically. Yeah, I think, to be honest, a jig might not be a bad idea there. I know I've just like free bent them, but some kind of jig might work good there. There's my flux on here. Let me just check. I've been missing quite a few comments as well, guys, because I'm talking away and there's quite a lot coming in. Let me see if I can scroll back up. What temperature? What's the temperature of your solder? I don't know the temperature of the solder. I just got leaded solder, but my soldering iron I run at 380 degrees Celsius. Missed Mr. J jumping off, but yeah, thanks for sending the likes. Flux, I think I've answered that a few times. I'm using Styriflux. I've tried the V5, I don't think it's that good. I'm going to stick with the this high temperature Tachyflux for the minute, but this has got halides in, so not the healthiest. I probably do want to try and find another Steriflux, or we have Solder King Flux that's halide free that I used to use before Steri. I might just go back to that if it's better than the V5, to be honest. So let me just see. I'll probably need to warm this up a little bit so I can actually see through the flux to align the pins. So let's just give that a little bit of warmth first. There we go, and now I can see where this is aligned. Now I do have a tip for the hot air station that is specific for this chip, so that it can heat all the pins up in one go, which I'll probably use, and then move it out and push down. So that looks aligned enough. Let me swap out the tip then. So if we get this tip off, we can do it the way I've done it with all the others, which is to just move this around. But considering I have the right tip, let's take him off. Let's get him out of the way. And where have I put the other one? This one here. So this tip goes over, and it perfectly fits over them pins. So we can hot air just the pins and not the chip, basically. Come on, turn around. That's going to stay on. Yeah, £1,000 in labour for that last one, you're not joking. What temp? Temp for my iron is 380, temp for the hot air is 330. You sent me some free items and never got to thank you. Yeah, no worries. I've got plenty of free stuff that I give away all the time, especially if it's, you know, stuff that I know people are going to use, basically. Yeah, the technique you're describing is pretty much the technique I do, which I don't know why, obviously, I don't invent it, but that's the technique I do all the time. It's hot air, float it over, push it down once it's soldering. There's literally, if you watch back any stream I do, except this one, you'll see that's the technique I always use. So let's go in from this side. I think we've found zooming in on here is like the best angle for you guys, like there. And gently move that into view a bit. There we go. And now we'll go over, get the fan on. We'll go over with the hot air like this. We'll wait for the solder to bubble, and you'll see it kind of reflowing. And then once it is and it's on long enough, we'll push down and then let it cool. And then I don't know whether to go back over it again, because it might just lift up naturally, but I probably will go back over it, we'll see. But hopefully, because we pre-bent them legs, this will just work perfectly fine. That's the hope. Soldering hot air, me iron is always at 380 Celsius, it always has been. Rarely need to do anything else with that. If it doesn't, if you can't get a joint to warm up, you don't increase the tip temperature, just increase the tip size, basically. But 380 for your iron is pretty solid. Hot air, I've always ran it at 480C. I've literally in the last week dropped it to 330, so this is running 330 at the minute. Just because I was killing Game Gear VDPs with the high heat. You just saw that pull into position then on the CPU, so hopefully that's not skipped a pin, which it has. So let me nudge it over. We've managed to skip a full pin there. So that's the problem with this. Using this nozzle, you can't really see. You can't see the chip easily, so I'm having to nudge it while I'm looking over it. So I think that's in position. But then we've got lots of bridges that we always do. because it's pulled the wrong position. So that's reflowed. Get over. Can't really push down as such without it moving. And yeah, I'm not sure on that. There's a lot of movement because it still doesn't want to, like, oh, you can't see anything because my big hand's in the way. I think that's still, I think it'll be soldered, but I think it's moved quite a bit as we were doing it, and I'm not sure these top pins. So these top pins, ignore the joins, we'll fix the joins after. It's mainly have these pins adhered to the board is all we care about to see if the technique worked. So pull that into focus. All these joins will come out, by the way, super easy, even though it looks like there's loads of joins. We want to see though, has it actually stuck to the board? And it looks like it has. So all we've got to do is rubber iron down there, and we should have. I know it looks like you might be looking at that and thinking there's joins everywhere. They're going to come out super easy, so don't worry about all them joins. The main thing is, has it bonded to the board, which it looks like it has. So with that, while it's still warm, let me just run an iron all the way around this, just to pull out them solder blobs. Like I say, looks like there's really loads of kind of work to do here, but just running an iron down will pretty much guarantee. I don't even need to look what I'm doing as such. They should pull out all of them shorts almost in one go. So you see down the bottom here, if I just drag over, you should see all them shorts just magically disappear. So look at that, they just all pull away, not a single short left. So that's also a good sign that they're bonded to the PCB, because the solder's flowing where it wants to now, which is correctly to each pin. Those are the three that you can see at the top that are meant to be joined, that are joined. Those bottom two are meant to be joined, so they won't come off. And then this side now, I think, is the one left. Probably want a bit more flux on that side. I think I've got my iron at the wrong angle here. There we go. Again, depth perception with not looking through a microscope. So that was pretty painless. That was a hot air reflow. And a quick whiz over with the iron, because it pulled. Potentially, if it didn't miss pull on one pin, that might have not needed any iron work at all. But I'm pretty sure that should hopefully be decently soldered now. It's still way more work than a 2 ASIC. I think in terms of soldering, I think it's a lot more work just because the pitch is so fine. But that wasn't too bad. So these pins here are meant to be joined, these two. These then look soldered. Yeah, they're all nice. Those three are meant to be joined. That's copper under there. Just randomly poke some. These, again, I don't think there's any on this that should be joined, and it doesn't look like there are. Perfect. Down this side we have, these two are meant to be joined, which they don't look joined there, but they are joined here. That's normal. Oh, those aren't though. So still need more bend probably on the legs. Maybe we'll do a bit more of an aggressive bend on the next one. Let's bend them back in. I've literally bent the living shit out of them pins. I was expecting them to be soldered, that's why. Ooh. Let me get these under the scope before I do more damage. Let me just bend them back into position properly. But yeah, I think that the technique's going to work. I think we just need more bend. Right, let me get my tweezers. Put these back into position. That's right. Let's get a bit of flux on there. There we go. Plus, again, I know I've said it about 50 times, but bear in mind I'm not working under a microscope doing this, so I'd probably do a bit better job. There we go. If I was working under a microscope than doing it on a stream camera with no depth perception. But I think the main issue there is still just if the legs were bent into position a bit more, I think we wouldn't have an issue there anyway. I think that's just those legs must have not been quite making contact with the board, because they were definitely reflowed with the hot air, and if they were touching the board they would have just simply adhered. So I think again it's just purely an issue with getting that chip prepped better in the first place. Let's drag solder down this one. Well, drag test. The only problem with doing the fast drag is if they go wrong like they did there, you'll pull a load of them out in one go, but yeah, solid. Can't remember whether we did this side, but let's do it again. I don't think we did. I think we just probed random ones this side. This dental pick works ace, by the way, whoever recommended that, wicked. There we go, so they're solid. We know that one's good. I think that is the technique we'll use. Just need to figure out the best way to bend them pins. Maybe I'll just go more aggressive and bend them more. Maybe that's the simple answer. Just really bend them more, basically. But that's the technique you've seen me use with all the others. So we know the technique's good. It's just, can we adapt the chip enough that the technique works? Hopefully we can. So I guess, do we test this work? So this is the one we've just hot aired. We need a game. Ooh, turn that off. And what is it? It's already like 6:15. I'll just test these and then we got any games? We'll call it a day after that. I want to go get some food. But I can confirm we won't be using lead-free solder, that's for sure. There we go. Got one here. Love your work, thank you very much. What do you use? Personally, I use the IPA and then a dishwasher to clean flux, but I'd definitely be interested if there was other chemicals or things to potentially clean the flux, but I think it's just going to be, I think it's just gunk on there. I think it's just basically keep the board warm, use IPA and a melamine sponge, and then for a thorough clean after, just chuck them in the dishwasher. That's the answer for me, anyway. I'd like to get, like I say, a ultrasonic cleaner that actually works, but I've yet to find one that does anything at all useful. Am I going to get a Vectrex Mini? Maybe. I've got obviously the original Vectrex. I've got it down in that corner. But yeah, I might get the Mini. I love the actual. It's a shame it's not going to be a mini CRT, because that, to be honest, the main pleasure with the Vectrex is the fact it's an actual CRT. I have a bridge at the top, not good. That's meant to be a bridge. So all them you saw, they are bridges on the actual PCB, so there shouldn't be a bridge on this at all. Should have no issues. Thanks for the stream, you're welcome. I've got a right itchy nose. Right, let's see if this works. And again, like I say, we don't actually know if these ASICs work yet. See if we get test screen. So yeah, all the pins are coming out right, so we're basically getting as if there's no game load on this. Ah, there you go, so we've just got game load. So this is just, I think, a connector issue potentially on here. Let's try another connector. This project is just building Game Gears, so we obviously sell Game Gears and many other things. This is just, mainly originally I was just testing at the start of the stream, using some lead-free solder and some new flux, but they both turned out to be pretty horrendous, so I've gone back to my normal equipment. I wonder if this is slightly out. Could also be this game. The fact we've seen game load once, I'm going to suspect not the system at the minute. Yeah, so right, so I think it was this ribbon slightly misaligned. Yes, that's now solid. Let's take the game out, plug it back in, plug in. Yeah, so clean screen ribbon was slightly misaligned, causing the clock probably to not work. So that one's good. That was the hot-aired one. And this is one where you can test. See how you see on this screen. Zoom out. See how you see on here? You've got this title in English. If you then flick the switch to Japanese and restart, you'll see this title changes colour. It changes colour. The title changes to Japanese, basically. So we just wait. And this is certain games can read the region of the Game Gear. So there you go. We now got the Japanese title. There's also, if you notice on the 1A6, you get this license screen by Sega that you have to wait for, and then the game loads. You can disable that on the RePCB, because I've made a little solder blob down here called trademark screen. You can just blob solder on that and bridge it. Then it'll disable that blue screen so you can have a quicker startup. So blob solder on like that. Zoom back out. And now if we plug in, you'll see you won't get that blue screen now. You just go to nothing apparently. It's probably just this ribbon again, maybe. I think this ribbon might need cleaning. This is my test screen. But all that does is disable the blue screen to make it boot faster. See if it'll load without. Oh, it could well be this game. This game could be a bit dirty. Have I got my Sonic game anywhere? Because with Sonic you hear the boot a bit quicker. It might well just be the Sonic. Let's just try another random game. Get in, there we go. Now this has actually got no boot at all on this, so we're not getting border. So what's changed there? I wonder if this has got a. I think the clean screen's just faulty, to be honest, because obviously the games are loading. We're getting nothing at all on the screen now. Oh, I know what it is. There's no boot light on this, so the power's a bit dirty. See how we're getting no boot light? That can happen. There you go. When you're using a dirty USB power supply. So I should luckily I've got another version. So let me just go back to. That's probably somebody did mention. Quite a few people mentioned the concern of using unclean USBs going into here because it's not regulated. That actually is showing that it stops boot in this case. So see how now we plug this in, you don't get that blue screen. There you go, so instant boot, that's what that TMS does there. But have you seen how that was just having this intermittent behaviour where it just wasn't booting, and you notice this orange light wasn't coming on. So if I unplug and replug this, sometimes you'll get the orange light not coming on. And that's one of the cases if this is too dirty to load. So what I've actually done, listen to the people that said that might be an issue, I've made the next version of the 2ASIC in this case, and I've put this little circuit on here now. So now on this version, when you plug in the USB, you'll get this double regulating. So the USB comes in, this is then a new regulation circuit, and you get clean 5 volts going to the system, fully regulated. So that's an upgrade coming in the next version. But obviously this port's designed just for testing. If you're unsure or you want to make sure it works, then you obviously solder on the power and audio ribbons and use a clean juice or a clean power or the power core to test these now. So just have to bear that in mind, that if we don't see boot, still question the 5 volt USB that you're using, because that's obviously just giving me issues there. Game Gear, yeah, if you've still got the Game Gear, definitely send it in for a recap or do the recap yourself. They will be leaking and rotting the board. The Game Gear caps are terrible, so definitely get that serviced. Either service it yourself or, like I say, send it in to somebody. Send it in to us if you like, before it does more damage. Is it in Japanese? It is at the minute, yeah. We've got a little toggle switch down here that turns it to Japanese. Ham radio, no, other than living next to somebody that always used to use one and it kept coming through my speakers in the bedroom and shitting me up at night. Never really got into ham radio stuff. I've repaired a few, but no, never got into it. Yeah, Puyo Puyo, it's an awesome game. Right, so that one works. That was the hot-aired one. Now let's try the god-awful hand-soldered jobby we did at the start that took us way too long. So let's take this clean screen out. We know the clean screen works. Let's take this out. We know this works, and the Game Gear game works. So here's a good one. This is the suspect one. We did check the pins, I believe, didn't we? I think. Checked all the pins were good. So it should work. But yeah, I think the technique is going to be... I need to practice, so I'm sure by the time I've done all of these in the next few days, you know, get rid of this how many we've got to do for orders. By the time I've soldered these on, I'll figure out the best technique. And the next time you see me doing them, it'll be like the two ASICs where I just do them with my eyes shut in 15 minutes. But that was painful to watch for you guys that have watched that from the start. That was like watching somebody that has never soldered before. I'm pretty sure that was a pretty bad experience. But that shows also how much you get used to your setup, your equipment, the materials you use. I'm used to, obviously, leaded solder, certain temperatures. I'm used to the other Game Gear ASICs at the minute, not the finer pitch one on here. And it just shows until you get experience with specific things that you work on, obviously you struggle at the start, like all of us struggle. Just because I can solder doesn't mean I can technically solder some different setup with different pins and different equipment. You have to get used to that and figure out what works. But I will obviously get this down to a fine art like the other ones, and get this working, you know, like the process working perfect for us. So that's in. No, it isn't. Game in, and then we'll test if this works. Yep, speaker on, game on. Let's see if this one works. No. So let's double check them pins then. I'm going to look under the actual scope for this one because I can't remember whether I did. We had that many problems with this one. I probably gave up giving a shit about this one. Right, so get the light on. Oh yeah, float. Very first pin I look at floating. So that one's not very focused for you, but yeah. Can you guess which pin's floating from there? You probably can't, because again, with no depth perception, you can't exactly see, but where is he? This geezer. Look at that. Floaty, floaty. So, let's solder these. Let's just do, again, the thing that I don't like doing is single pin soldering. Just seems like such a waste, but let's go down and hand solder each one of these on. There's no way it's not going to be the first one I check is the only one that's loose. There's no way. That is not shorted now. That's fine. Got a feeling some of these are going to move. Tell you what, if that's going to be the only one that's loose. Right, so that one's loose. That one's loose. And that one isn't. Yeah, I can see how shit of a job it is with not bending them pins down. To be honest, I don't think them being loose would have mattered because you're joining them all on the board, which means they may be already internally joined. Maybe they're not. But yeah, definitely bend these pins down before you solder. Whichever technique you use, definitely bend these pins down because they stick up. This is like, we've done, like I say, probably done about, I don't know, 20 of these boards already. And they've all had this kind of issue. They're all, that's why I kind of wanted to do the video, to practice on them. But yeah, the legs are always up in the air more. Oh, and then the very last one down there is also in the air. And I'll probably hot air this after as well. Probably like reflow this entire thing. Oh yeah, these are going to be, you can see already. That one's up. It's almost quicker to just solder the pins than it is check them. Let's turn them around. And drag solder down here. Drag solder, drag test. They're now all good, so quite a few bad pins on there again. Now let's see if that works. So at least we know the pins are now good. Let's put the sound in. Nope. So it could be that with how bad that was soldered, what you can sometimes get is you can get shorts under the board that you can't see, or you could also have, as bad luck as it is, you could have a bad ASIC. There's no guarantee this ASIC's actually good. So let's just reflow this one for now and see. I mean, this thing has had a lot of work done on it and a lot of messing around. Wow, zoomy everywhere. There we go. So let's just reflow this with the, geez, come into view. There we go. Reflow this with this, and I'll push down once it's warmed up and molten. And then if this doesn't work, we're going to presume it's a bad ASIC because we've checked all the pins. But likelihood is this will probably fix it. It's probably still, there'll be like a hairline join sometimes under the chip from like the lead solder, lead-free solder not melting enough basically, and you just won't see it with your eye. 2 pins soldered together are normal. There's quite a few sections on this this chip where they're meant to be joined. There's 2 at the bottom corner here, so these 2 are meant to be joined. 3 up here are meant to be joined, and 2 up here are meant to be joined. So that's why I've kind of ignored them when you've seen the shorts on there. I was learning to solder with lead-free for about 2 minutes. Well, no, probably took about 25 minutes of the stream messing around, but yeah, it was awful. Terrible. This is the one we did with lead-free solder, and lo and behold, it doesn't even work. So, just reflowing it now with hot air. I don't know whether I want to push down. What I want to do, I think, instead is fresh flux now it's molten, to really try and get any of those, if there are joins inside, like under the chip, that they kind of reflow. Warm back up. I don't know, like I say, whether I want to push down, because I'll nudge it and move it by mistake as well, which then means we have to start again, really. Right, that'll do on there, and then I kind of do want to push down now. Let's try go straight. There we go. Right. I've managed to push down there without moving the chip, I think. Thermal camera I've got, it wouldn't show shorts. It'll only show shorts on power rails, and if it's a dead short on pins, you won't see it either, because an actual dead short with solder will not generate heat. You'll only get heat on shorts that are partial. That'll do for that. And like I say, there's no guarantee this specific ASIC works. You can get dead ASICs, and it might just be our luck that we have not only the chip we messed around with a poor soldering technique, it might also just happen to be a dead ASIC. We don't know, basically. All we can do is ensure we definitely have good solder joints and no shorts. And if so, then the logical only other answer if it doesn't work really is the ASIC being dead. I mean, the other thing bear in mind is I've used this again, the thing that can cause intermittent boot. So we probably want to put a power board on as a last check. Right then. Clean this desk again while it cools again. I keep meaning to leave one of these down when we're working. I keep saying it, like leave one of these cloths on the desk so that flux doesn't keep going into my silicon mat. So let's do that now. Makes the cleanup a lot easier. Right, we'll see if this works. If not, we'll have one last look at the pins, because I haven't bothered checking them since I reflowed. But let's just presume this is maybe going to work. Who knows? Chip's cool enough. Nope, same thing. So remove this. Install. Same behaviour. That is kind of making me think. The fact that it's attempting to load stuff. I almost want to say maybe that is. Still, the power not regulated. Ooh, that's high pitch. Yep. And what I have known on some of them as well is you can have it where if you bridge the trademark pin and disable that screen, you can get it where it actually works. And some ASICs are dead on just the trademark screen not showing. Like if you have the trademark screen showing, it doesn't work, and if you disable it, it works. That can be like a partially faulty ASIC. Yeah, so we're not having much luck on this. Let's try then, last resort. It probably is just a bad ASIC. We'll just try putting on an actual proper power board that's regulated. Let's give that a go. But at least now we have a better technique already. So the next one we do, we will bend the legs into position and hot air it down. That's kind of the technique we want to use. And then it's much quicker to obviously do this job as well then. And I was going to say, we've not had a faulty one ASIC yet. So I was going to start a chart of how many we do without getting a fault, and we've never actually had a faulty one yet. So this is kind of why I think I'm kind of hoping in one way this isn't a bad ASIC, because then if it is, this is literally the first one we've come across yet. We haven't done many at all. Like I say, we've only just released this board, so we haven't done many 1A6, but it'd be a shame if this was a faulty ASIC, because then it's going to ruin the little streak we've got going. I know we haven't done many, but I literally haven't seen one yet that doesn't work. Right, so let's use a proper power board now. So this is now going to regulate the power. In fact, let's use the clean juice, because the power core isn't exactly the high spec version. Where is the clean juice? Rob's axe, maybe. I don't know where mine is, so Steeling's axe. No, exactly the same. That's a bummer. I guess have a quick look at the pins. We didn't really... I know I said I was going to look at the pins. I don't think we really did we? After I reflowed, it might have lifted some pins up. But it's funny how it's exactly the same visual as before. I think maybe we are just dealing with a dead ASIC, unfortunately. Let's have a quick look at this. See if the reflow did us any favours or not, or made things worse. Oh, wow, very first pin lifted. This one is jinxed. You get down. Yeah, so we're probably best taking this chip off, and yeah, we might be best taking this chip off and bending the legs down, because that reflow made it worse. And again, these two pins are meant to be soldered, obviously. There, they are joined together. Those two are meant to be joined, so we can ignore them. Wow, so is it going to be again the case of the only pin that I check first that's loose, nothing else is? Oh no, there we go. Every time I say that I find one. So you are loose as well. That one there. Of course, now I'm going to have to use flux. Yep, okay. And we'll have to obviously check all these pins again. I'm just pushing them all down as we're going anyway. These are all miles in the air. Like every one of these pins is terrible. Definitely need to do that that push. Like I probably literally could have taken this entire chip off and just pushed the pins down way quicker than messing like this. And you can still see it's got the lead-free solder on here that's making the job harder to clear these pins as well. Like you can see how it dries that it's the lead-free solder. Yeah, just literally makes it terrible to work with. Even just dragging one side, this is, again, look at the mess we're having with this. Yeah, it just doesn't want to flow at all. It literally does not want to flow. Wow, yeah. You literally know as soon as you've come back to lead-free solder. Like nothing about that wants to flow right, and everything looks like it's loose. Let's go down here, let's clean that up. I know you probably haven't seen half of that, but all I was doing was messing with the joints on the lead-free solder part. So yeah, this is loose again already, like up here. It's absolutely terrible. This is this is just the remnants of that lead-free solder. I could have built probably another like 3 just using the new technique than messing with this one. I mean, just look how it flows. Heat that up, move off, and then it dries like you've not soldered it right. And that's just like I say, this is the lead-free part of it. Right then. That'll do, because I think any more faffing with that, I might as well just lift it off, clear the solder off, and just do it again with the new technique to be quicker than messing like that. That is just such a bad thing, that lead-free solder is. Something I don't want to touch again. Going on about the 6th pin down, yeah, I'll probably have a look in a minute, like I say. It's terrible all over, that one is. Now white. So I reckon this chip is probably still good, but I just do not trust them pins at all. Come on, show me one. Disable that. Yep. Yeah, that's going to be my excuse. The lead freeze killed it. Thing is, like I say, I've got a streak where I know these are all working. I don't want it to be a not working one, but we've seen the pins constantly floating. I don't know, fuck it. Let's get it off, let's bend the legs, do it right. It takes a few minutes. Get rid of this lead free shit. This won't take long at all, so why are we even messing around with any other technique? We'll whip this off, desolder wick, put fresh leaded solder back down. We'll bend the pins as best we can, because it's already kind of they've already kind of got flux and solder on and stuff. They might not bend, but we'll soon find out. we'll do what we can. Try to do the hot air technique on it instead. Yeah, all the comments like, that pin's off, this pin's shorted, that pin's shit. that was crazy. Let's never go back to lead-free solder. I mean, if you're having to use lead-free solder, I reckon at this stage you'd need the preheater underneath, the flux on, this reflowing, the chips pre-bent. You'd have to like do absolutely everything to get this thing on, basically, right? But I think, well, I know for a fact that soldering was ridiculously bad using that solder. So let's try and keep this board warm. Get some desolder wick while everything's toasty. Get that stupid tiny tip off. Decent tip back on. Let's desolder wick this lead-free crap off this board. Wow, we didn't even want to desolder wick off. You know what, sorry, let's use another board. Not even going arse with that. Let's get rid of this board. You've been contaminated with lead-free stuff, so you're not going to go into production. Then we'll hot air them off after. Well, yeah, hot air that thing off after. Brand new board. Right then. Flux down. Give me the lead. Let's get all this lead on. Let's go. Beautiful, beautiful lead. Oh, just look how easy it is to work with lead. See, I'm done. No messing around. Clean the pads. Fresh flux. And that's it, we're ready to put the chip down. So let's now clean this chip up if we can. Just going to try and warm this other chip up to get rid of some of the flux in the middle, not that it matters too much. Now I guess the question is, can we bend this chip that's already been on and off a few times? Can we bend the pins, or are they already kind of I think they look fairly straight, so I think we'll be alright. We say that and then I see bent pins straight away, and everything's covered in flux. All my fingers are covered in flux. That leg, can't even see what's going on with that leg. That poor leg's been crushed down and bent. Yeah, this is he's like twisted. Oh, this is going to be terrible. I think these are maybe too bent. If they're in a straight line, there's hope, because I can bend them down more, but This one's bent here a bit much. Yeah, they look alright, and we kind of do want to use this one because we want to make sure, you know, is the ASIC okay versus using another one. But yeah, the pins are a little bit misaligned, which is not going to help us. These I cannot tell what's going on with them with no depth perception at all. I think they're just in a different position, but looking straight down wise, like the straightness of them, they don't look too bad. So let's just try and, I guess, put them on the deck like that, and let's bend the pins in. Yeah, there we go. So that's pretty much what we want to do. Bend them nicely down like that. Do that for all of them. So flat down, bend. Yeah, there you go. See, sticking under the chip. Nice. So I think this will work. Ooh, they look a bit wobbly and bent. So they're done perfectly fine. They're done fine. Maybe they want a bit more. There we go. They're done fine. Bit more on them as well. There we go. So that's all of them bent down. Are they in straight enough position? Wow, where have they gone? They're bent down but inwards. Yeah. Yeah, I think we've got about the best hope of this working as it's ever going to work. So there's that. So now let's solder him down. I wicked the lead free, and then I just decided to get rid of the board and use a fresh one. Even the lead free didn't want to wick off, so I just literally chucked another board on it. Yeah, I highly doubt the board would be the issue anyway. Yeah, that's true with leaded solder. You don't get lead coming up through the fumes. I commented it on a video yesterday. That's why I'm not overly fussed about using leaded solder, because you don't get lead poisoning off leaded solder. It's literally, the lead is on the PCB, it's not floating up, it's not evaporating into fumes. It's just not how it works, basically. So let's just warm this up a little bit first, so I can see what I'm doing. What microscope? This is just an overhead camera. This is a Blackmagic Pocket. Oh wow, this is going to be annoying. Blackmagic Pocket 6K camera above my head. So it's not even a microscope, but I do have a microscope just in Amtech. Right, so we need to align that pin. We don't want it jumping again. I can't be arsed to mess with this if it jumps and I have to solder as well. I'd like this to kind of just be in the right position to start with. Wow, these pins just don't look in good positions. This is I can imagine even with this it not working right. Come on, nudge just a bit over. And again, the two ASICs, you don't need to be anywhere near this accurate with things. Right, there we go. I'm going to, as well, I'm going to use my proper original technique. So I brought these nozzles that are obviously designed for doing it over the top. And yes, it works better, but I can't see what I'm doing. So I'm going to go back to my normal way of doing it. Like the way I did it before, I realised I was killing VDPs left, right and centre. That's just to use completely normal nozzle, or just knock it off like that. Clearly not even on. You go on there. You sounded like you were on. There we go. Right, let's hope I haven't knocked that chip doing that. Good. Right, so I'm now using a normal nozzle like this. So I can just go around with my hot air, can see what I'm doing, I can add flux when I need. This is just how I've worked with the others. So what I'll do with this is I go around like this for about a minute, and then I get closer and wait for the flux to bubble, and then I push down and carry on. It just gives me the freedom to work with, one, seeing what I'm doing, two, I can get my tweezers and push down and nudge into position and things. Whereas, yes, using the other tip is going to be quicker. This, though, I think gives you more freedom to do what you need to do. Yeah, that's pretty much the technique we've just used. We've put solder on the board, bent the legs in, and we're pushing down. The problem we now have, though, is this chip has already had its legs bent and probed and pushed, and they're not really in the best position, so I think this is going to struggle to get down, to be honest. I'm not holding high hopes that this is actually going to lay flat for us, but we can hope. And again, all good practice on these new 1 ASICs. I've not done many, so the more practice the better. Not really a waste of time, it's just all different techniques. But ultimately we're back to the exact same technique that I've used for the 2 ASICs now. Other than bending the legs before we do this work, I'm back to the same nozzle, same solder, same flux, same technique. All I've done really is bend the pins in advance. And I think that is the technique. So you can see now the solder starting to melt. And because I'm normally on 480C and this is 330, this is going to take significantly longer to do what I'd normally do. But the less heat is obviously a bit safer for the chip. I'd say now we're at the point where I can probably push down on the chip, because most of the pins are staying molten as we push, so push down, nice and firm, and then what I'll do is go around another few times, then I'll apply some fresh solder. Right, now I'll quickly get some solder, apply some fresh, like so, then get back on with the heat and do one last reflow. And that'll do. So that's how I'd do it pretty much, but I'd normally be doing it at 480C. My TV's told me it's decided it's going to turn off as well. Of course it has, right in the middle of reflowing stuff. How can I stop it bloody turning off? There we go. And then now what I do is clean up while it's still warm, but all the pins have set. So let's get this board cleaned. I've wiped more solder paste on than I cleaned off. And that's pretty much the technique I'd use. That's like back to how I used it before. Blonde hair stream. I could put blonde in my hair again. I've had it tons. Thing is, now I go proper barbers. I used to go like a hairdressers, if you will, like where women would go. I went there for years and years. Now I go in actual barbers. So I think the barber would shoot me if I said, "Can you dye me hair?" I've never seen a bloke go in there and have his hair dyed. Whereas when you go a women's hairdressers, it's no matter. Just ask them to dye your hair, they'll do it, no problem. But yeah, going to barbers and telling them to dye your hair, I'll probably get chucked out. And that is all on good. Do we really want to test if the pins are soldered well? I guess we're going to have to, aren't we, really? We're going to have to look at this and see. I kind of don't want to. I want to just pretend everything's okay. Let's have a look at the new technique. The only reason I'm not overly confident is because this was obviously messed with and these pins weren't in the best position to start with. Looking good. Oh, there you go. Still shit. But we'll solder them 3 back into position anyway. I'll leave them slightly bent so I can find them. Oh wow, yeah. So I think just these legs are too bent to even go, you know, flat. You've definitely got to have them all in the exact right position. But the majority of all the others are much nicer anyway, so hopefully. Right, so it's definitely only that corner. Did we do this side of the chip? I don't think we did. Let's just drag solder this side. Ah, good. So the only thing we've got to deal with is just this little bit here. So these few pins. So luckily, and they're the pins that were popped off before. That might give us a bit more hope that this is definitely soldered on well. Yeah, we just have these few pins here, really. So I'm not overly fussed at that. I'm going to have to put flux on there. Go back to this. Yeah, definitely send me a... If anybody sends me leaded solder, however, lead-free solder, I won't be overly impressed. There we go. Definitely good. Right, so we can be absolutely assured now that the soldering isn't the problem this time. So other than that little pin being off there, we've seen everything else good. So last attempt, and then if this gives us identical results, we know the ASIC is unfortunately bad, because that's definitely on right. Like, I'm confident that soldering is perfectly fine now. If this does work, then we know the lead-free soldering was the problem. Wow, everything is good. I'm going to have to put myself in the dishwasher, covered in flux. Everything I'm touching has got flux on. And if it doesn't work now, I think somebody asked a while ago, if it doesn't work after this, I'd say this would be the ASIC. Now we've done a new board and definitely good soldering and stuff like that. You would basically conclude that the ASIC is bad at this point if this doesn't work. The bridge pins are meant to be there. There's multiple bridge pins on the ASIC that are bridged on the actual PCB. So they are, just so you know, these 2 pins at the top are bridged on the PCB. These 2 pins down here are bridged on the PCB, and pins 6, 7 and 8 down here are all bridged together. They're meant to be bridged. They're actually bridged on the chip itself. So they are like purposeful shorts, if you will. Right, so that's on. That's in. This game's in. And then USB. What do we get? Oh look, it works. So just, if you have lead-free solder, just bin it. It's fucking awful. Stick with leaded and you can't go wrong. And that's all good. So I don't think we've got that on. But yeah, you can see no mither. Restarts, loads up, restarts, loads up. So we're all good there. That's two working. So we haven't yet had a bad ASIC yet. I think the main issue with these is they are an absolute bitch to solder. So you definitely need to bend the pins down. And then you need to hot air them on. And you need to use leaded solder. Like, definitely. That's the take homes from this, I think. That's pretty much, that's how you do them. So again, a bit more practice and I'll get these much better. I'll get these down to like the 2 ASICs nice and easy. But at least that's two built. Obviously it took forever because we were practicing new techniques. And now I'm, like I say, I'm covered in flux everywhere and everything I touch. But it's, at least they're working. So that'll be it for this one, guys. It's going to get some food now. If you've subbed on Twitch or you're a member on YouTube, I'll be doing the sub-only stream tomorrow at 4:30, I think. Yeah, 4:30 UK time. We are going over, I think, using the multimeter, teaching you all the functions of the multimeter and stuff. So if you want to join that, just obviously be a member on YouTube or sub on Twitch. I think Twitch is a bit cheaper, but whichever you want to do, that'll be wicked. And if not, I'll probably do a normal stream in the next few days anyway. And if I missed your comments, just apologies on this one. We've had like quite a lot of comments flying in, a bit too many to keep track of while I'm working. So I do try to answer comments, but I might have missed some as I'm going. I'm probably going to stick as well to not using these. I'm going to stick to my normal technique of hot airing around so I can see what I'm doing and I can push down, because obviously you've just seen the OG technique I've always used has worked first time. So sod the special tips off, just stick with a normal nozzle, go around the board, you can see it easier, you can push down, you can realign, gives you more freedom. So yeah, there's no real difference in soldering these up than there is really doing the 2 ASICs. If we just pre-bend the legs on these chips, that's the key. I think that's the key difference, and nothing else really changes. Is this a recording? No, it isn't. And that, yeah, just people shouting with bridge pins. That was obviously, like I say, there's the PCB itself has bridged pins by design, because them pins are all together. So the bottom corner and the top corner are literally grounds that join together, and the 3 down the middle I think are also grounds. I can't remember. Obviously I made the PCB, I could check, but that's why you see them join. What I'll probably do on the next revision, instead of having the pins going through the board like you can see here, so you can actually see, if we zoom in more, you can see the copper actually joining the 3 pins there. You can see the copper is just all together on them 2 pins, so that's why it's literally showing there. And at the bottom here, again, you can see how they look different. It's because it's all one ground plane. So what I'll probably do, instead of them joining through this way, I'll send the traces out forward so they don't appear to join when you solder them. Just because so many people get confused with that and think they've got to join when they haven't. So I'll do that on the next revision, basically. Actually, that's a good point as well. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think I'm safely going to say we've done at least 10 of these. So what I'm going to do is start a little sticky note. We're going to have a 1 ASIC streak, and let's see how many of these we can get. There we go. without having a bad one. So we have the 1 ASIC streak. And then we've got at least 10. I know we've just done 2 on stream. I'm not even counting them for now. So there's our 10 ASIC streak at the minute. And then as I do them on stream, I'll count them up here. If we do them off stream, I'll add them as well. But let's see how many we can get without actually losing streak. So we'll put him up there for now. Wrap him around the camera. Again, if I missed any comments, like I say, we've had a lot of comments on this. So I've probably missed quite a few comments when I've been working my way through. But I do normally try and answer them. If you sign up as a sub as well, your comments will appear on stream, so it's a bit more likely to be seen as well. Yeah, I designed this PCB. This is fully like this entire thing I've made, designed and produced. I make hardware, I've got tons of hardware. The power board you've seen me using. This thing, designed this and obviously made this. Made a different version. Got audio boards I've made. Like audio boards there that go for it. I've got some prototypes we haven't got to yet. GBC Cleanlight RGB. That's finally built and tested. The Mega Drive 2 Clean RGB are now done and mass produced, but we don't have the cables for another week, so I won't bother listing them because nobody wants the clean RGB without the actual cable. It's kind of useless. This goes inside a Game Gear, yeah. So we've got any built? Yeah, we've got. No, that's a Lynx. I don't think we've got any Game Gears out at the minute. We're building them. Yeah, we're building them all, but they go in. Like this is a laminated shell thing, but like, you know, here's the housing. This one's one with our logo. We do them with the Game Gear as well. This board sits inside, so you flip over. You've got plastic buttons that go in there and rubbers. This then sits in there. Turn it round, and then obviously your buttons hit there. Your screen then goes through the lens, and then it builds a Game Gear up. You might see well, you'll see tons of streams with these on if you want to see them fully built. We just don't have any at the minute because obviously we sell them as soon as we make them. They're sold. So yeah, that's it, guys. I will catch you tomorrow for the subs and whenever for everybody else. OLED Game Gear, not really a point. I've got IPS. We could do OLED, I just don't think it's really high on the agenda at the minute. And see everybody in the next